All right, man. We're here with DStyle Boxing, and I'm Joe Habeeb, as you guys all know, and we're going to recap this Kell Brook versus Gennady Golovkin fight. Now, this was a competitive fight, man, more competitive than I anticipated. I mean, I was one of those guys who thought Golovkin would walk through Kell Brook. And first round, he had his way with him, obviously, but I scored the second two rounds for Kell Brook, and I had the fourth round for Gennady Golovkin, and we all know what happened in the fifth. Now, I do think Golovkin did look a little bit off. I don't want to take anything away from Kell Brook. I think maybe he had the sense of urgency because he felt as though if he went the distance with a guy who was considered a blown-up welterweight, then he would be criticized. And maybe the power he felt from Kell Brook did not affect him at all. So maybe he decided to throw all caution into the wind and take chances in this fight and not fight a cerebral, methodical, comprehensive type fight like he did against David Lemieux, where he used the jab and he boxed well. Because he knew David Lemieux was a true middleweight. He knew David Lemieux was a big puncher. So if it took him rounds, if he had to even go the distance, I think he thought in his mind that would be acceptable. But to go the distance with a Kell Brook, in his mind, I suspect was not acceptable. So that's why I believe he performed the way he performed. He did look a little bit pale at the weight, and he did look a little bit disturbed. I don't want to say he looked sick, but he did look a little bit off. And as Abel Sanchez did mention, he was a little bit upset from the long ride to the weigh-in, and that kind of threw him off a little bit, and he was a little bit upset. D-Style, I mean, what did you think of this fight, and how do you assess Gennady Golovkin's performance, and also Kell Brook's performance as well?
Right. So, look, obviously, I think most people, unless you had Kell Brook winning, I think the majority of all of us had Gennady Golovkin winning, right? The majority. There's some guys out there that, they picked Kell Brook, but the one thing I talked about was, I thought anyway, and I'm on record in my video, I say it, right? My prediction video. I thought Kell Brook was going to have success early in the fight. Because although I thought size will eventually be a factor in the fight, it's not a factor like as soon as the bell rings. It takes a couple of rounds for size to become a factor. And I think that's kind of how the fight went overall. One thing, regarding this fight was, Gennady Golovkin can afford to have a bad performance and still win, where Kell Brook had to have the performance of his life just to have a chance to win. So I think that was the difference between these two fighters here. I will say, I know I get look, when I say this, I'm not criticizing Gennady Golovkin. I'm just pointing out the obvious, and not all fighters are perfect. There's not one fighter out there you can say is perfect, and you can't look at things and, as a boxing fan, wonder, I wonder if another fighter can exploit that. I've always talked about the jab of Gennady Golovkin. It's a well-thrown jab, a good power jab, but I've always felt that it's a little telegraphed, and I really feel like Kell Brook was able to time it very well, and I think that's one of the reasons he wasn't throwing it that much. It's Abel Sanchez made it seem like he just didn't want to throw it. I don't know. I felt like Kell Brook was timing the jab very well, and in the second round he hurt him. And one punch I did not see Kell Brook landing. In fact, I don't remember a lot of people even mentioning this, was the uppercut. He hurt Gennady Golovkin with an uppercut. I'm not going to say he's hurt him bad, but he caught his attention for sure in that second round. I think he found something there. I think he found something. I think Kell Brook was in a position to maybe turn the fight around. But credit to Gennady Golovkin. He kept his composure. He kept his cool. And as the fight progressed, I think the size became a factor. It became kind of clear. And Kell Brook he just didn't have the power to keep Gennady Golovkin off of him. So in that sense, you weren't exactly wrong in saying Gennady Golovkin's going to walk all over him. It maybe took a couple rounds longer for that to eventually happen, but I think that's what eventually happened.
Well, this is the thing. They have the old saying, a good big man beats a good little man. But again, these guys were the same size. But again, size does not always translate into power, and it does not always translate into strength. Now, with that being said, does that mean Kell Brook is not a hard puncher? No, because some of those shots he landed, if he landed them against other fighters, they probably would have had more of an effect. but Golovkin is used to fighting guys who are weighing 180, 185 the night of the fight, whereas Kell Brook possibly was maybe 170, 174-ish, whatever. But, I agree with Bernard Hopkins. If you're going to say that, this was an off night for Golovkin, or maybe he was sick, or whatever the case may be, this wasn't the best Golovkin, and he was still able to muster up,
right.
A fifth round knockout. That speaks volumes. And this is another thing too. When you see Golovkin fight this type of fight against this opponent, to sit there and nitpick it and dissect it and say to yourself, well, this is how he would fight an Andre Ward, or this is how he would fight this guy. If this guy could do this to him, then what would this guy do? I honestly believe if Golovkin fought an Andre Ward, or if he fought a Danny Jacobs, or he fought a Billy Joe Saunders, he would not fight the same way, obviously, because we've seen him fight in so many different ways. We've seen him box from the outside against David Lemieux. We've seen him, kind of go in and out against Curtis Stevens. And then we've seen him just take it right to other fighters. And we've seen him kind of be more methodical with not Matthew Macklin, but what's the other British guy that he fought there? The guy who went, Martin Murray, excuse me. He was a little bit more, a little bit more patient and methodical with Martin Murray. So, he admittedly said, I didn't feel the power with this guy. This guy I knew in my mind was not a true middleweight. So I went in there and I just tried to. He said before the fight he was going to try and street fight him. So he threw all the boxing out the window before the first bell even rang. So he pretty much told you what he was going to do. He already told you what he was going to do. So then when he went in there and did it, now obviously maybe people suspected that Kell Brook would be easier to hit, or he would fall down in one or whatever. But he fell in 5, and that was enough. Now, obviously, he kept touching his eye. He looked like he was troubled in there. First glance, I thought he could have continued, but even he admitted that his eye was bothering him. He was saying he's seeing two or three people out of that eye. So you got to take the fighter's word for it. And again, in the heat of the moment, I thought he could have continued. It looked like a bad stoppage by the corner in the beginning. But again, I'm always going to side with the fighter. I'm going to want a fight to be stopped a little bit sooner than later, because I've seen fighters and the residual effect of taking beatings. And as we mentioned earlier in the day, one fight, a game changer in a fighter's career, where the crack in the chandelier has first arisen, and then as time goes on, people keep hitting that crack, and that crack gets bigger and bigger. This could have been the fight for Kell Brook, where that crack could have occurred, and it could have spelled the end. So hats off to Kell Brook's corner. Thinking about it now, and hindsight is 20/20. It was a pretty good stoppage. But with that being said, Kell Brook goes down to 154. When Kell Brook goes down to 154, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I think he beats Canelo at 154. If they were to fight, I think he beats Canelo at 160. I would pick Kell Brook over Canelo right now.
I don't know about that.
I would.
Well, that's interesting. Look, here's my disagreement. I think we have a disagreement here. It's not a very big disagreement, but I think there's a disagreement.
Sure.
Kell Brook is definitely the most skilled fighter, I believe, Gennady Golovkin's ever been in the ring with, right? Mm-hmm. And is there some truth that psychologically he knew this guy can't hurt me? Sure, but he got him pretty good with that uppercut in the second round. He caught his attention. He wasn't putting his hands down like he did with some of these other middleweights against Kell Brook. That didn't quite happen here. I think. Yeah. Well, there's some truth to, let's say that it is true that he was mad at the weigh-in and or whatnot, right? I don't think he was sick. I don't know. But let's say all that's true, right? I honestly feel that the opponent in front of him had a lot to do with how he looked. I think Kell Brook was having a lot of success in there against Gennady Golovkin. I think there was more of a technical aspect to it, more so than Gennady Golovkin just saying, I just threw caution to the wind. I honestly believe that he was a little embarrassed by his performance, and that's why he's saying, yeah, I just threw caution to the wind. That's my honest opinion, right? Do I believe the fight was am I arguing with the stoppage? Not necessarily. I think Gennady Golovkin was going to end up stopping Kell Brook, right? But so we're not really arguing that point. I just think that if we were to put a percentage on it, I think it was 60% Kell Brook, 40%, Gennady Golovkin's decision on how to fight. I think it had more to do with Kell Brook than it had to do with Gennady Golovkin. I mean, let's look at the last fight he had, right? What was the last opponent's name against Gennady Golovkin?
I think it was David Lemieux. No, I apologize. Dominic Wade. I apologize.
Dominic Wade, right.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
I mean, come on. I mean, Gennady Golovkin was playing with this guy, okay? It was like a cat and mouse game. I mean, that's what that fight was. He was putting his hands down, letting Wade hit him at times. He was putting his hands down against Lemieux at times, right? He wasn't doing that in this fight. I think he was getting hit with some shots that he did not see coming. I think I'm not saying they hurt him, but they caught his attention, right? And I don't believe he just threw the jab out the window. I think it had a lot to do with the timing that Kell Brook put on it. That's my opinion.
Well, to speak to your point, you made some great points, and I'm going to say something that may support your point as well. Obviously, I think if you listen to the interview, Triple G said, he's good at. He admitted that Kell Brook was good at gauging distance, so he knew that if he didn't close the gap, that Kell Brook was the better outside fighter. He felt as though at a distance, Kell Brook had more of a chance to land as opposed to if he got in Kell Brook's chest and made it an inside fight, which 99% of the fighters are going to have problems fighting Kell Brook at a distance. So that's why everyone tries to get inside and tries to muscle him a little bit, tries to throw short shots up close. So with that being said, I think Golovkin felt uncomfortable from the outside. So obviously he had to take that distance away. And he had to get in his comfort zone where he could get leverage and take the leverage away from Kell Brook. Now, even though the shots may not have been hurting Golovkin, and he may have said what he said at the end, that I didn't feel anything, so I went in there and I just want to knock him out, take chances, whatever. He knew he may not be hurt from the outside, but he could be outpointed from the outside. So that's where I think your point is becoming a little bit more valid to me now that you mention it, is because he was getting frustrated on the outside a little bit. You could see the body language said to, he suggested and said to us that, you know what, this guy can touch me. This guy can touch me when I give him space, and he's able to get his shots off, and he's got some pretty quick hands too. So as I've always said, when you're fighting a guy with pretty quick hands, what do you got to do? You got to take the space away. You got to smother speed. Because the speed is like fire. If you don't throw a blanket on a fire, it's going to spread. Same thing with speed. The more space you give somebody, the more comfortable they're going to get, and the less time you're going to have to get your shots off because they're going to be one step ahead. They're going to get there before you. So what do? You take that speed away by chopping down the distance and smothering the punch and not letting the fighter turn the shots over. And that's what Golovkin did. He really made it a physical fight. And for all those people who thought, because of Kell Brook's size, that maybe he'd be strong enough to hold Golovkin on the inside or contain him on the inside, that was not the case because Gennady Golovkin, all you guys.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let me finish this one point and I'll let you right back in. All these guys will say, oh, well, all the guy did was hold. Well, all the guy did was run. Well, when you fight Gennady Golovkin, I've never seen anyone hold him, and I've never seen anyone run from him because guess what? As I've mentioned before, Golovkin knows how to nudge his head into your underneath your chin and into your neck and break up the clinch, and he's able to free his hands and work on the inside. And if you try to run from him, the quote-unquote run, the code word for boxing, you try to stick and move on him, he anticipates where you're going to go and he cuts the ring off, and he is the consummate pro at cutting off the ring. So all those people will say, well, all this guy did was run, all this guy did was hold. Well, fighters are still trying to do those same things to Golovkin, but Golovkin does not allow them to happen. So that's what you got to do. I mean, a guy's going to try and grab you. You got to have a strategy for breaking the clinch and not allowing him to grab you. A guy's going to move on you. You got to have a strategy for cutting off the ring and not allowing him to move on you. So, in a nutshell. Go ahead, brother.
Well, that's a great. Let's take a bigger picture that we're looking at here, but I agree Let's praise Gennady Golovkin when he's able to cut off the ring. Let's praise Gennady Golovkin when a guy tries to wrap him up and they're not able to do it because he knows how to fight off that clinch. I agree with that, but at the same time, not able to do anything about the clinch. When a fighter's not able to cut off the ring, then maybe we shouldn't be referring to other fighters as running or using tactics that you don't like or whatnot, right? Because we can't have it both ways. You know what I mean? If we're going to praise one fighter to, for cutting out the ring effectively, then we got to criticize fighters that are not able to cut off the ring effectively. So I agree with that point overall. I will say this, though. I disagree that Kell Brook beats Canelo. I disagree with that point. And, in fact, after tonight, or today that is, right? But tonight in the UK, all right, you know what? Although I'll still favor Gennady Golovkin, I think there's some openness for Canelo there. I think Canelo has a shot against Golovkin. I really do.
Well, the one thing Canelo does have in his favor is he does have quick hands, but the problem is he doesn't have quick feet. So I don't see how he's going to, be able to, because I think Canelo's a mid-range guy. He likes to throw that hook from the mid-range area, and he likes to throw, he throws a good straight right hand, but ultimately the goal is to get close in the mid-range and crank up that hook, from the mid-range area in the pocket. And the thing is he's going to have to constantly reset because Golovkin's going to try and smother that hook. He's going to try and take that hook away, and he's going to give him a little bit of angles, maybe turn him to the left a little bit, and come over the top with his right hand, or run him into his own short hook. So I think the key or the game plan for Golovkin against Canelo would be to take the mid-range away, get inside, and really, really make it a rough and tumble fight on the inside, and put pressure on Canelo more so than no one's ever really been able to do. Because most of the guys that have fought Canelo, they weren't strong enough to sustain a high work rate on the inside and put pressure on him because they couldn't match his power. So he's never really fought a guy who could match his power on the inside or could match his hand speed. Now, does Canelo have arguably quicker hand speed than Triple G? Possibly. But the thing is, again, you get up close and you smother those hands and you don't give them the space to turn the shots over. Meanwhile, you're digging, you're going up and under and up and over the top with your own shots, and you're shortening them up, and you can still generate power while the other guy can't. Then that's going to be a problem for Canelo. So I think GGG kind of puts the whooping on Canelo, in my opinion. That's, with all due respect to Canelo, I know he's a skillful fighter, whatever, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to have enough of that foot speed and that movement to be able to get away from Golovkin. And I think if they end up trading shots and going to war, blow for blow, I think Canelo will be the worst for wear. The worst for wear, definitely. I think he'll be the worst for wear in that situation.
Look, obviously, Gennady Golovkin would be the favorite. But if Canelo lands an uppercut like that on Gennady Golovkin falls on his ass. All right, I honestly believe that.
Well, the reason why I think that Brook would have his way with Canelo is because, again, Canelo doesn't really get up close. Like, he likes to have that mid-range area. He likes that space. And we've seen guys who have fast hands, and Brook has pretty fast feet too. We've seen a guy like Erislandy Lara. I thought he won the fight against Canelo. I thought he outboxed him. And I think that Brook could do some of those same things. But when it comes time to stand and plant his feet and throw punches, I think Brook may have maybe a little bit more snap to his punches than Erislandy Lara. I think Brook could get Canelo's attention. Like, those shots that Khan was landing against Canelo, yep. I think Brook can land those same shots, the same shots that Erislandy Lara landed. I think Brook can land those same shots, but guess what? These shots are going to have a lot more leverage on him. And again, Canelo is very susceptible to uppercuts too.
Right.
Khan landed some nice uppercuts against Canelo. Even James Kirkland landed a few uppercuts. He just couldn't get the leverage on him. And that same uppercut that Brook was throwing tonight, I think that would have a lot more effect on a Canelo than a Triple G. Because, you know, again, size does not always translate into strength. And I think, I'm not saying Canelo's not a strong fighter, but even though Triple G may not be the biggest guy in the world, he reminds me of Floyd Mayweather, whereas, you know, he's wiry. He's a wiry guy. He's a strong guy. He may not be heavily muscled. He may not be ripped to the bone. He may not look the part, but he has deceptive strength because we see him just push guys back, push guys back, push guys back. We see him maul guys on the inside. We see him, you know, maneuver guys and walk them and put them in spots where he wants to put them in just by grabbing them and just nudging them with his shoulders and stuff. And we've seen him in there with bigger guys who cannot contain him, who could not hold him. So I think that strength from Triple G is totally, totally underrated.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Gennady Golovkin is definitely a strong middleweight.
Yeah, yeah. So will Billy Joe Saunders now maybe get a glimmer of hope? Because I had this fight even. I had this fight even up until the time of the stoppage. I gave Brook the second and third rounds, and I gave Golovkin the first and the fourth. I don't think anyone can question. I don't think anyone can question the second round. Maybe the third round could have went either way, but I did give Brook 2 rounds in this fight up until the point of the stoppage. So does Billy Joe Saunders take a look at this and say to himself, "Hey, maybe I have a glimmer of hope here. You know, I'm bigger and stronger than Kell. I'm bigger and stronger than Kell Brook, and I'm probably just as fast as Kell Brook. And I can move very well. And I'm not going to stand there and trade with Triple G." And we saw with Triple G how he looked from the outside. If I can, you know, box on the outside well and tie him up on the inside, pick and choose my spots, can I steal a decision from Triple G? And obviously I could bring him over to the UK, have that home court advantage. So what does Billy Joe Saunders say to himself now after seeing a somewhat competitive fight up until the point while it lasted from Kell Brook, who's totally not a middleweight? Does this make Billy Joe Saunders say to himself, does a light go off in his head and say, you know what? I can beat this guy. I'm going to take the fight now. I saw enough of what I needed to see, and I'm going to take it now. I feel like I can do it.
Well, I mean, anytime a fighter looks vulnerable, the chances of him getting a bigger fight after that is obviously there, right? So here's the thing. I don't know what he's thinking, but is it likely that he's thinking to himself, I could take him? Probably. But if you're Billy Joe Saunders, though, I mean, I don't know. I've heard the rumors about him fighting Canelo, right? So which is the bigger money fight for him, and which is the more ideal fight for him? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, we got to see how this whole thing
That's the dilemma.
All I know is I don't think we're going to see Canelo in there with Triple G anytime soon.
I think if Gennady Golovkin is vulnerable in another fight, I think Canelo fights him. You know, I think they want to see if this was just a one-off performance or if, you know, but if let's say Gennady Golovkin looks spectacular, let's say he fights Billy Joe Saunders, knocks him out in dominating fashion, then no, I don't think Canelo gets in the ring with him. If he fights Billy Joe Saunders and looks vulnerable, I do believe Canelo will fight him.
But listen to what we're both saying here. We're saying that he looked vulnerable. We're saying that he may not have, fought the best fight or whatever, and then he still knocks the guy out in 5 rounds. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that we could sit there and criticize a guy for not maybe being his best or not putting on the best performance that we're used to seeing, and he still knocks Kell Brook out in 5 rounds? And I know that the detractors are going to say, "Oh, Kell Brook was this, Kell Brook was that, whatever." But Kell Brook can fight. If anything tonight, Kell Brook proved he could fight. So for anyone to dismiss Kell Brook as just a mere blown up welterweight, I think they're sorely mistaken, because I think he's going to go down to 154, and I think people are going to see at 154 just how good a fighter Kell Brook really is. because I think he's being totally diminished here, and I'm gonna give him credit, man. He's a tough son of a bitch, man. He's a tough son of a bitch, and he was getting hurt in that round before he got stopped, and he had a look in his eye like, hey, you know what? I want to still go. He was ready to go. He had an incredulous look on his face when the fight was stopped. And obviously he respects his trainer. He's been with his trainer since he was 9 years old, so they're not going to be any serious friction after the fight. But, you see fighters who kind of, resign in there just by the body language.
Right.
There was no body language in there to me that suggested that this guy was ready to surrender.
I think the writing was on the wall. I think we all saw that the fight was, whether it was that round or the next round, I think the fight was going to end, right? But do I specific moment, like, do I believe that the fight should have been stopped? I mean, look, I'm not. That's the trainer's decision, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? But here's the thing. It's just a rare thing. We don't always see a trainer, with a white towel in the corner. And usually when we see that, I don't know, it's usually there's a worse beating going on. You know what I mean? I honestly feel like Kell Brook could have at least finished the round, but
Yeah. Well, let's use this example. If that was Robert Garcia in the corner, would this fight have been stopped in the 5th round? I'm gonna say no, because Antonio Margarito's eye was hanging off. It was flapping around in the Manny Pacquiao fight. And his eye was pretty much looking like a grapefruit in the second Miguel Cotto fight. And Robert Garcia, you know what his answer was, why he didn't stop either one of those fights? You know what he said after the fights? He's like, oh, if I stopped it, Margarito would have killed me. So you're worried about the fighter killing you, but you'd rather sit there and let the fighter die in the ring. You know what I'm saying? Right. That's the thing. And I'm not here to dump on Robert Garcia, but there's a lot of blood and guts trainers out there that will not stop fights, that will not, save the fighter from himself. So
anytime a fight's ended this way, that there's going to be suspicion. You know what I mean? Like could he have done it? Could he not have done it? If he weathered that storm, big if, by the way, but if he weathered the storm, I don't know. I don't know about you. Gennady Golovkin looked a lot more tired in that 5th round than I've seen him in any other 5th round before.
Yeah.
Okay,
so again, we don't. Yeah. And again, props to Golovkin, because I suspect he may have been a little bit under the weather. He did look pale. He kind of did look nasally. You could see it in his eyes. It kind of looked a little bit red. Whatever the case may be, he said he wasn't. So I was props to him for even if he was, and he's not going to use that as an excuse, whatever. But he looked a little bit under the weather to me and to a lot of people. And if there was rumblings going around where there's smoke, there's fire. So it could have been a case where he may have been a little bit under the weather, without question. Yeah. And he still put on his performance. But, with that being said, this is what I have to go back to, the chandelier analogy. And if Kell Brook was saying, hey, you know what? My eye was bothering me. I was seeing 2 or 3 of them. And that was in the 5th round. So, 7 more rounds go by, and he's getting hit on that same eye. We could have another Antonio Margarito. So, again, I cannot applaud the corner enough. And in heat of the moment, I'm sitting there saying, oh, fuck, what just happened? Oh, shit, he should. But then, cooler heads always prevail. And then when I get that second look, and then I start listening to the fighter talk at the end of the fight, and then I just start seeing things. So glad that this fight was stopped. Just for the sake of Kell Brook, because now he lives to fight another day. And what a shame it would have been if Kell Brook ended up leaving the ring with less than himself at the end of this fight. And his career would have been in jeopardy forever. Going back, like we talked about Jermaine Taylor. We talked about Jermaine Taylor in that Kelly Pavlik fight, right? And he seemed to never have been the same after that fight. So that's the fight where the initial crack in the chandelier took place. Now, maybe went on, that crack could have made an impression in Kell Brook, and then that crack would have been growing from here on out. So I'm glad, at least from what I see, that there's no serious damage to Kell Brook, and he lives to fight another day. Again, hats off to the corner, right. 110%.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not outraged by the decision to stop it. It is what it is. The trainer knows Kell Brook better than us, right? So, if he, no one wanted Kell Brook to win more other than Kell Brook than his trainer. So
well, there's one other person that wanted. There's one other person that wanted Kell Brook to win bad too. Right now he's in front of a camera talking to you. I wanted that guy. I wanted him to win, baby. Fucking UK, baby. I was fucking cheering for him. I don't give a shit. I'll admit it. I wanted him to win, man. I fucking love Kell Brook.
Well, here's the thing. I do want to ask this.
I love him more now. I love him more now.
I want to ask you, and I want to ask whoever's listening right now. I want to ask all of you. This is what I want to ask. Because when I look back, in just boxing history, I don't know. Kell Brook would have been better off, this is my opinion, moving up to 154, winning the title there, maybe defending the title, up to middleweight, testing the waters, fight an okay middleweight, and then fight a Gennady Golovkin. I think that there was too much, because I hear what you're saying. Kell Brook's a big welterweight. They're about the same size. I do want to ask, was there an official same-day weigh-in? Did HBO was not able to weigh them, right?
Well, HBO did not have control of the broadcast, so they were not able to do that. And I think HBO and possibly Showtime are they're the only two networks that do that. And
okay,
if I'm a fighter, I'm not going to even step. If I'm a fighter, I'm not. Yeah. It's bad enough that I got to step on that I got to weigh in once. Why the fuck am I going to weigh in again if it's not mandated? So if I'm a fighter, I'm telling HBO or Showtime, no, I'm not getting on the scale again. I just fucking ate a buffet full of food. You think I want you to know that I weigh fucking 180 pounds now?
I don't know.
The Beeb can put 20 pounds on in a fucking day too if he wanted to.
I'm not gonna lie. When Pacquiao Mayweather, when they had Pacquiao's same day weight, but not Mayweather's same day weight, I was curious. Yeah. I know Mayweather was saying he weighed less than Pacquiao, but we don't really know. We're not going to take his word for it. We don't really know that, do we? He didn't look.
I don't believe it.
Right, exactly.
I don't believe it.
I think that's one of the reasons we want to act. We want to know, right? But anyway, here's the thing. Does Kell Brook deserve credit? Yes, right. He deserves props. The guy's a warrior, no doubt about it. Shout out to the UK, right? But here's the thing. Okay, is he an artificial middleweight in a sense? I believe he put on muscle, right, to get to this weight class to fight Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin is natural at this weight class, right? I just believe Kell Brook would have been better suited to have moved up, through the weight classes to eventually get a fight like this. Now, look, at the same time, I know Gennady Golovkin's already 34 years old. It's not like Kell Brook had 3 years to make it happen. I get that. But I don't know. I think Kell Brook would have been better suited, testing the waters at middleweight first, rather than just jumping against a big shark, jumping to weight class. That's my opinion.
Shout out to Davey Boy in the chat, my buddy, Davey Boy Essex. Just reported to me that Kell Brook has a broken eye socket. So once again,
Yep.
Brendan Ingle, the trainer. Props to you, man. Shout out to you, brother.
Which was not a popular decision, by the way. The whole arena was booing him when he was holding that towel up.
Yeah, because it's very easy when you break that eye socket, right? And if you continue to get hit in that same area, it's very easy to get more and more damage. You can get cataracts in the eye because there's space there, and the eye's not firmly set there. So it's moving around. It's getting hit in the areas it's not supposed to be touched in. The eye's not protected once the socket's broken. Because what is the eye socket there for? It's to hold the eye in place and protect the eye. So once you take that away, that's why Antonio Margarito in that Pacquiao fight had significant damage. He had to get an artificial lens after that fight. And, you blame the corner for that. again, I'm sorry, but I just don't like to see a corner.
You talk about the chandelier,
but
keep it. We have a lot of millennials here that don't know what a chandelier is. So let me think of your smartphone, right? If you drop your smartphone, it gets a little crack in it. Guess what's going to happen the next time you drop it?
It's going to crack again.
It's going to crack again. You know, think of a windshield. When you get a little small crack on your windshield, what starts happening? You know, it starts cracking.
Get that spider web effect, yeah, and it cracks more and more.
Yeah. You know, because a lot of kids, I mean, chandeliers have been out of style for 20 years. I don't know if you've been told this.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I get it, man. Look, I think the trainer knew we're pretty much done, you know, but and I think this is it. You know, I mean, it was just that simple, you know. There was really nothing left for Kell Brook, really. He looked kind of spent. Because let me tell you this. Kell Brook could have been shrugging and put his arms out saying, what, you're not hitting me, but you were getting hit. You know, he was making Gennady miss some shots. But the truth is, if he had anything left, he would have been countering Golovkin on some of those shots, and he wasn't. You know? You know, Golovkin started to become a little more wild towards the end there. Like he called it street fighting, right? And Brook didn't have anything in him to counter him with anything. And I think Gennady Golovkin knew that. I think Kell Brook knew that. I honestly think Kell Brook was just waiting for the round to end. So,
yeah, you know, this is definitely the perfect opportunity for people to come out and start. I mean, obviously, there is Triple G fanboys and there is Triple G haters, and there's people that fall somewhere in between. Again, you know, just because you critique a fighter and you say certain things about a fighter, obviously, doesn't mean you hate the fighter personally. Doesn't mean you want to send the fighter death threats. It doesn't mean that you want to see bad things happen to the fighter, that you think the fighter's a bad person or the bad. And we've said this several times. If we think someone is considered overrated, that doesn't diminish the fighter. Because if basically you're a B+ student, and then you go around telling everyone that you're an A student, then you're overrating yourself because you're really a B+ student. Now, does that mean that a B+ student is being a B+ student, or B+ students are not smart people, or they don't have accomplishments? You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. That's the thing. So is Triple G overrated? We don't know yet. You know, we have to give him this, right? We have to give him credit because, you know, he's trying to fight people in the weight class that don't want to fight him. But at some point, you know what? This is my only thing. I think they're going to fight him now. Well, this is the thing. People think I hate Triple G because I want to see him move up. And then all the Triple G families are, well, you just want to see him get beat. No, if you really think about it, I hold him in that high regard where I think he could move up and be competitive. Could he beat James DeGale? I don't know. Possibly. Could he beat Gilberto Ramirez? Possibly. But I just think those fights would be a lot tougher than these fights he's been fighting now. How about this? I think they would probably be. I think they'd probably be tougher than a Canelo fight. I know they'd be tougher than a Canelo fight, and I suspect they'd be tougher than a Billy Joe Saunders fight or a Danny Jacobs fight. So that's why I'm saying I want him to move up for the sake of getting more competitive matchups, because I think he's that good that he can compete at those weight. Well, here's the thing, right? If not that I want to see him lose, I don't care if he wins or loses.
I think the Danny Jacobs fight is a great fight. You know, I think Billy Joe Saunders, Danny Jacobs. If Gennady Golovkin fight those guys, I don't have a problem with those two fights. You know, as far as at middleweight. But I agree with you. I eventually want to see him move up.
Yeah, yeah. Because the thing is this. He's 34 years old. He's closing in on 35. Billy Joe Saunders says no dice. Canelo says no dice. So what are you going to do to get that big fight, that competitive fight? Because again, right now this fight was not a super fight. This was an event. The Canelo fight is not a super fight. It's an event. Now, you know, you have events and you have super fights. Now, Andre Wood versus Sergey Kovalev, in my opinion, as I said numerous times, that's a super fight because it's an even. You know, both guys are highly skilled. They're comparable in the skill department, and a lot of people picking Kovalev. A lot of people picking Wood. That's a 50-50 fight in a lot of people's minds. Golovkin versus Canelo is not a 50-50 fight. In my opinion, it's a friggin' 80-20 fight. And that's just my opinion. Does that mean that I'm disrespecting Canelo? No. I just think Triple G is that good. Does that mean I think Canelo's bad? No. I just think Triple G is that good. That's a 70-30 fight, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I mean, Joe Saunders. But I did see him get hurt against Andy Lee. And then I see him go into survival mode. And, you know, if he gets hurt against Triple G and tries to go in survival mode, Triple G doesn't let you go into survival mode. He stays on you like white on rice. So Andy Lee kind of, I'm not going to say he let up on the gas. I just don't think he had the ability to cut off the ring like Triple G has the ability to cut off the ring and apply pressure. He's just a different type of guy, different type of fighter. So I see Billy Joe Saunders get hurt and go into survival mode and kind of get on his bicycle and not engage. He may not have that luxury against Triple G. So that's why I think that's a 70-30 fight, Triple G. And again, another good fighter, Billy Joe Saunders. Another good fighter, Billy Joe Saunders. But Triple G, in my opinion, is just that good. That's it.
I actually, if you were to ask me, DStyle, what fight do you want to see Gennady Golovkin in next? My answer would be Danny Jacobs, right? As far as ideally, if I can't get that fight, then I don't mind a Canelo or Billy Joe Saunders fight, right? But other than those fights, what other fights are there really at middleweight right now? You know, I mean, I can't really, I don't know, nothing that would interest me, you know, personally.
Well, you know, again, I think Badou Jack would be an awesome fight. James DeGale, Andre Durrell.
Yeah, but they'll try at 168.
That's what I'm saying. Right? Like, I think those fights would be good fights. Would I favor Triple G against DeGale? I don't know. I think I would. DeGale can fight, man. Triple G may be a slight favorite against DeGale, but I think DeGale can fight. He's a big, strong guy, man. Badou Jack, Cabello Ramirez. I like that 168-pound division a little bit, man. Andre Durrell.
What about Eubank Jr.?
Eubank Jr. is at 160, but he's a big middleweight too. I mean,
that's a good fight, actually.
Man. That's probably a good fight too. I don't know though. I don't know because I mean,
I'm just trying to be fair to Golovkin here. That's it, right? So my thought process is this: if he can get the Danny Jacobs fight, Eubank Jr. or DeGale, right? DeGale's up there. Never mind. Billy Joe Saunders, sorry. Yeah. If you get one of those three guys, Billy Joe Saunders, Danny Jacobs, Eubank Jr., I'm not going to be up in arms about it. I'm okay with any of those three fights right now. That's my opinion, right? If he fights Danny Jacobs next, I'm not going to join anybody, you know, saying he should move up. That's just my opinion.
I suspect what's going to happen is I think Chris Eubank Jr. will step up to the table. I think, you know, he'll take the fight now because the time is now. The time is now. The time is now. I mean, you know, he needs a big fight. I don't think Billy Joe Saunders is going to fight Chris Eubank Jr. again. I don't think he really wants to. I think he's going to kind of bust his balls a little bit. They're not really on good terms. So he's saying, why should I do him a favor by giving him another payday, whatever the case may be. So I think that Chris Eubank Jr. really has nowhere to go to get a pretty big fight, get a decent fight, because he's got nothing on the table for him, unless he becomes you know, who's he going to fight? He's not going to fight Danny Jacobs. You know what I'm saying? Because Danny Jacobs is like the regular champion, and Golovkin is like the super champion. So what do? You're going to fight the regular champion and not fight the super champion? So I just think that Eubank Jr. at this stage is the most logical choice right now, and I hope it happens. And I suspect that maybe it will happen next.
I mean, by the sounds of it, it sounds like Gennady wants Billy Joe Saunders though to get the final bell from what he said. So I'm okay with any of those three fights, to be honest. But if he can't get any of those, then move up. You know.
But this is the thing. What's the timeline?
Yeah.
What's the timeline? Because we've been waiting for a long time for Jacobs to come to the table. We've been waiting for a long time for Billy Joe Saunders to come to the table.
Well, Jacobs called him out, so maybe that's a good sign.
So hopefully, and again, the WBA is doing all these mandates and they're making all these, demands of fighters and stuff. Why don't they make this fight happen? Why don't they force this fight?
Well, these governing bodies never make decisions that make sense. But, they sanctioned the Wade fight, but not Brook fight. I don't know. It's kind of weird to me, but I don't know. Look, Gennady Golovkin has a dilemma right now, right? He got this fight against Kell Brook. It was a big money fight. He got paid, right? But look, if Canelo doesn't fight him, right? Because even though you know me, I hate catchweights, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Canelo's going to want the catchweight, especially if they saw the weigh-in yesterday. Yeah. They're going to be demanding a catchweight against Gennady Golovkin. So, that's got to be a factor. And I think that's something that they're going to push for. So I don't know if the Canelo fight's going to happen, although I kind of wish Canelo would just take the fight, personally. But it's going to be those 3 middleweights I mentioned, or he's going to end up fighting some mandatory, like a weight type of fighter next, which nobody wants to see, if we're honest.
Yeah, so basically, I think, there's another – if I'm going to sit there and say what I think should happen, I think, if a year goes by and, a big fight is not made, and one of these guys, as you mentioned, Eubank Jr., Billy Joe Saunders, or Gennady Jacobs does not step up to the table, the Golovkins, they got to do something. They have no choice but to move up if another year goes by, because he'll be 35, closing in on 36 in another year. He's almost 35 now.
Yep.
And he's got to basically seek out a super fight.
Yeah, I mean, Danny Jacobs versus Gennady Golovkin, that's an exciting fight right there, right?
Yeah.
That's exciting as it gets right there. But I mean, obviously, there's a lot of factors I don't think we're mentioning right now. But first of all, there's the collecting all the belts, which Gennady Golovkin really wants to do, right?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Billy Joe Saunders, that's why he wants him. So I'm okay with that. And obviously, they want to break the all-time, defense. So those are two things we got to look at,
Absolutely. So, to sum this up in a nutshell, this is the perfect opportunity for all the friggin' vultures to swarm in around Gennady Golovkin right now and sit there and throw darts at him and try to nitpick and pigeonhole Gennady Golovkin. And if this is how he looks when he's not at his best and he can still muster up a 5th round knockout, I'm gonna give Brook credit. I'm not gonna sit there and say that Brook was not a solid opponent, because he fought like a solid opponent tonight. Golovkin did what he had to do in the end, and did he get desperate at times? Did he look reckless at times? Yeah. Yep. But again, as you said, what Kell Brook was doing. So Kell Brook is a solid fighter. He's going to be a solid 154-pound fighter. He's going to be a champion again. And if people looking at this fight and saying this is what Gennady Golovkin is going to look like moving forward against other opponents, I'm going to, number one, disagree with you, and number two, I'm going to say that I think you're sorely mistaken. So all in all, this turned out to be a pretty decent fight. It was more competitive than I anticipated. And Brook won some rounds on my card. I had the fight dead even up into the stoppage, as I mentioned earlier. So I think this was ended up turning out to be a pretty decent event. And that crowd was fucking bananas. That crowd was bananas. That atmosphere. Oh, what a imagine being there. That's all I can say. Imagine
the
being
UK
there.
fanboys
being there. So shout out to the UK. Shout out to Kell Brook. shout out to
You know, a lot of people in the UK want to know though, when is Joe Habeeb going to visit the UK? That's what they want to know.
Joe B is going to be there pretty soon. I have a flat out there in Manchester, so I got to go back down there and check it out. Make sure everything's up to speed. Make sure the maid cleaned up and stuff, and the trash is taken out, and the dog was fed. So I got to go down there. I need to check on my flat. But and any closing thoughts from you, DStyle? I mean, I think we pretty much said all we could say about this fight, man. And again, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the next one. Definitely.
I honestly believe. No fighter's above criticism, so it's okay to point out any criticism. These guys,
I guess DStyle is cutting in and out here. Maybe a bad internet connection, but maybe I can finish up his point here before we get out of here. So again, no fighter is above criticism. No fighter is perfect. And a lot of times we expect perfection out of our fighters. We expect perfection out of our athletes. And when they don't give us perfection every time out, then we jump the gun and we want to jump ship and we want to throw them under the bus. I'm not going to throw Triple G under the bus tonight. I'm going to give Triple G full credit for the victory. I'm going to give props to Kell Brook for putting up an outstanding effort tonight. I think he fought above and beyond his abilities. And I was a happy boxing fan tonight at the end of this matchup. And I'm just looking forward to see what Kell Brook does at 154. And I'm really hoping Triple G does get one of those three opponents in the ring, Danny Jacobs, Billy Joe Saunders, or Chris Eubank Jr. And if not, then, again, not to beat a dead horse, but it will be time to move up. That being said, man, Beeb is out. On behalf of DStyle and Joe Beeb, peace out, and again, continue to be a fan of the sport of boxing, man. Big ups to everyone out there. UK, baby. One love. Peace.